Most people don't know that the Coast Guard's operating in the Middle East. We have over 300 men and women assigned to patrol forces Southwest Asia in the Kingdom of Bahrain. One of the key points of Patrol Forces Southwest Asia is to deter malign actors and counter violent extremist organizations through the interdiction activities of weapons, narcotics, explosives used to equip or fund terrorist organizations. We have the squadron of 6 fast response cutters, which are...
You heard it clearly. The United States Coast Guard has 6 ships assigned to patrol the Persian Gulf. This began 2 decades ago as part of the War on Terror, even though oil-rich Arab nations have their own coastal patrol ships and can easily afford more if desired. President Donald Trump talks about the need to defend America first, and the U.S. Navy recently dispatched 2 destroyers to help defend our southern border. Moving 6 Coast Guard ships back to the United States to guard our coast makes more sense and is long overdue. Does Trump even know about these ships? Polls show the majority of Americans support the closure of most military bases overseas. The United States spends more on its overseas military bases each year than China spends on its entire military. The American president can close any foreign base without congressional approval. G2 Mill created a detailed overseas base closure list a decade ago that is linked in the description. During the last year of his first term in office, President Trump realized that he had been fooled and backstabbed by the Washington establishment. They want to grow the American empire no matter what it costs, not reduce it. Trump brought in knowledgeable outsiders in 2020 who quickly helped him order a reduction of American forces in Europe by just 10%. The Washington establishment was furious, and the Trump plan was killed soon after Joe Biden became president, who sent more soldiers to Europe.
U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin is suggesting he will not carry out Trump administration plans to withdraw thousands of American troops from Germany. In fact, Secretary Austin says he's adding 500 troops to the U.S. contingent there. He said that underscores America's commitment to Germany and the NATO alliance.
American generals and admirals love overseas bases and never close any unless forced by political leaders. If ordered to close bases, they follow a proven strategy of demanding billions of dollars to move personnel, construct new facilities, and to clean up closing bases. They stall the effort for years until political leaders have changed, as they did with Trump's last effort. Trump is back with plenty of time to force base closures, but he needs to start now. Part of Trump's 2020 plan was to close the American air base at Spangdahlem, Germany, and move its single F-16 squadron to the Aviano Air Base in Italy to join 2 other F-16 squadrons. Spang has horrible flying weather and no nearby aerial maneuver areas, so training there is difficult. Moreover, Spang no longer has 60 fighter aircraft, as 2 of its squadrons were disbanded long ago, leaving the 52nd Fighter Wing with just 1 squadron with detachments in Poland. Spang has 5,000 airmen, plus an equal number of civilian employees and military family members, just to support a dozen F-16s. If generals claim they need time and money to expand Aviano, just disband a squadron there and redistribute its aircraft to other F-16 squadrons short of aircraft. Or move that squadron 30 miles down the road to the massive Ramstein that once hosted F-16s. Germany and France are expanding their military and will benefit if a modern fighter base is provided. Germany can maintain the base as American fighter squadrons from the United States visit for training exercises, as they do now. This will save lots of money as the 52nd Wing headquarters and its support units are disbanded. Spang would still be a NATO air base available to American aircraft, as Germany pays to operate and maintain the base, while the U.S. Air Force sheds some 6,000 military and civilian support positions. If something happens to threaten Central Europe in the future, F-16s from South Carolina can deploy to Spang within a week. This move cuts no American combat power in Europe, just overhead. Camp Bondsteel was constructed to house American peacekeeping forces soon after Kosovo achieved independence from Serbia in 1999 and employs hundreds of locals. The Kosovo mission was successful, and there is rarely violence. Only 1,400 American soldiers remain at Bondsteel, who are National Guardsmen rotated there for a one-year tour. Since it costs millions of dollars each year to man and operate Camp Bondsteel, why does it still exist? It has no value as a regional base since it has no port or rail facilities nor ammunition storage igloos. It is only 955 acres with no training areas. It is best described as a luxurious prison camp where American soldiers kill time by driving around Kosovo armed with pistols. President Trump wants NATO members to contribute more to European defense. Several new NATO members are located adjacent to Kosovo who can man Camp Bondsteel. Trump should announce the Americans are leaving within a year, and if NATO members think peacekeepers are still needed, they can take turns sending soldiers there. During the 1980s, the Reagan administration was concerned about communist movements in El Salvador and Nicaragua. The U.S. Army established a small air base in Honduras to support overt and covert operations. Those conflicts were resolved 2 decades ago, but this Soto Cano Air Base remains and continues to grow into a resort city with 800 local workers, as military families recently moved in. The current spin is that Soto Cano supports regional counter-drug operations. But this is said about every American base in Latin America, which have no impact on the availability of drugs in the United States. Soto Cano can remain in operation run by the Honduran military, perhaps with some American financial assistance. But the U.S. Army helicopters and families should return home. An excellent location for its 16 helicopters is the Corpus Christi Army Depot, which is part of the adjacent U.S. Naval Air Station in South Texas. This is the Army's huge helicopter repair depot that uses the Navy airfield. It has plenty of room since the Navy moved its mine warfare helicopters to Norfolk, which cost Corpus Christi hundreds of jobs. Army helicopters based there can fly to Honduras or any Central American air base within hours and help protect our southern border. President Trump should order a U.S. military withdrawal from Spangdahlem, Bondsteel, Soto Cano, and the return of Coast Guard ships from the Persian Gulf by July 1st, 2026, which is adequate time and allows children to finish their school year. Closing these few small bases and relocating personnel and equipment can be accomplished in 1 year with no additional funding, since operational funds can be used. Personnel are frequently moved anyway, and there is plenty of extra capacity at other bases. The United States can tell host nations that the value of American improvements to a base far exceed any cleanup cost, as was done when 2 bases in the Philippines were quickly closed in the 1990s. Trump must assign a trusted retired colonel to monitor progress firsthand to ensure success and develop a plan for round 2 of overseas base closures.